You've got a kitchen drawer full of plants that ancient civilizations treated as their entire pharmacy, and you're sprinkling them on chicken. That's not an exaggeration. The roots, leaves, and berries sitting in your spice rack, growing in your backyard, selling for a couple of dollars at every grocery store on the planet. They carry thousands of years of healing behind them. And the wildest part? Modern science keeps proving the ancients were right. Today I'm breaking down 10 of them. 10 medicinal plants with real clinical research, real trials, real results, most of which you already own. And number 3 on this list, it's been proven in multiple randomized controlled trials to shorten the duration of the flu. Number 1 is something sitting in your kitchen right now that kills more types of bacteria than most people realize. Let's get into it. Number 10. Chamomile. The bedtime tea that works better than most people think. Chamomile is so familiar, so associated with gentle grandmotherly comfort, that most people assume it is mostly placebo. A nice tasting tea that makes you feel cozy before bed. Something mild and harmless that could not possibly be real medicine. That assumption is wrong. Matricaria chamomilla, the small daisy-like flower with the white petals and yellow center that has been used as medicine across Europe and Asia for over 2,000 years, contains a compound called apaginine. And apaginine binds to benzoazepine receptors in the brain. These are the same receptors that pharmaceutical anti-anxiety drugs like Valium target. Chamomile works through a real documented neurological mechanism. Clinical trials have confirmed this. A randomized controlled trial published in a peer-reviewed journal found that chamomile extract produced significant reductions in generalized anxiety disorder symptoms compared to placebo. Another study found that long-term chamomile use reduced the rate of anxiety relapse. These are not minor findings. For sleep, chamomile has been shown to improve sleep quality and reduce the time it takes to fall asleep, particularly in elderly populations and new mothers. 2 groups where sleep disruption is especially common and where pharmaceutical sleep aids carry significant risks. The anti-inflammatory properties of chamomile are also well established. Traditional uses for upset stomach, irritable bowel symptoms, and inflammatory skin conditions are all backed by research. Chamomile tea applied topically has been used for wound healing and eczema for centuries. Chamomile became so normalized as a bedtime beverage that people forgot it was medicine. But the chemistry was always there. 2,000 years of healers reaching for those small white flowers were not wrong. They were working with a genuine pharmacological tool that we now understand far better than they did. And that still works exactly as it always has. And if you want to keep learning about natural healing, traditional skills, and knowledge that should never have been forgotten, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss what is coming next. Number 9. Lavender. The purple field that calms your nervous system. Lavender is one of the most recognizable plants on Earth. Those long purple flower spikes, that unmistakable fragrance, those rolling fields in the south of France that fill up every travel magazine every summer. Most people think of lavender as a perfume ingredient or a candle scent. What most people do not know is that lavender has a serious body of clinical research behind it as a genuine medicine for anxiety and sleep. Lavandula angustifolia has been used for centuries across Mediterranean cultures for calming the nervous system, improving sleep quality, and easing headaches. Roman soldiers added it to their bathing water. Medieval herbalists prescribed it for anxiety and nervous tension. And for a long time, modern medicine dismissed all of that as pleasant-smelling nonsense. Then the clinical trials started coming in. A standardized oral lavender oil preparation has now been tested in multiple randomized controlled trials for generalized anxiety disorder. The results showed meaningful reductions in anxiety, comparable in some studies to pharmaceutical anti-anxiety medications, but without the dependency and withdrawal effects that those drugs carry. The research is solid enough that a lavender oil preparation is actually approved as an anxiety treatment in several European countries. The inhaled fragrance also has documented effects. Studies show that lavender aromatherapy measurably reduces cortisol levels and improves sleep quality, not just subjectively, but in measurable physiological markers. Traditional uses included a strong lavender tea before bed for insomnia, lavender-infused oil massaged into the temples for headaches, and sachets of dried flowers placed near the pillow for sleep. These practices were not superstition. They were people working with a real pharmacological effect that we now understand at the molecular level. Lavender got sidelined as medicine because it became so successful as a fragrance that its medicinal identity got buried. But for anxiety, tension headaches, and poor sleep, lavender is one of the most research-backed natural options available. And those purple fields have been waiting patiently for you to remember what they were originally for. Number 8. Rosemary. The kitchen herb that protects your brain. Rosemary is in most people's spice cabinet right now. That woody Mediterranean herb with the needle-like leaves and the sharp reinous fragrance that goes into roasted potatoes and grilled lamb. It sits on the shelf between the other cooking herbs, and nobody gives it a second thought as medicine. But Rosmarinus officinales has a medicinal history stretching back thousands of years, and modern neuroscience research is now paying close attention to it for reasons that go far beyond flavor. Rosemary has been associated with memory and cognition since ancient times. Greek scholars wore rosemary garlands while studying. The phrase rosemary for remembrance appears in Shakespeare. For most of recorded history, this connection between rosemary and mental clarity was treated as poetic symbolism. It turns out it was observation. Studies have now shown that simply being in a room diffused with rosemary aroma produces measurable improvements in speed and accuracy on cognitive tasks. The compound 1,8-cineol found in rosemary essential oil appears to cross the blood-brain barrier and inhibit an enzyme that breaks down acetylcholine, one of the key neurotransmitters involved in memory and learning that is a real pharmacological mechanism, not a placebo. Beyond cognition, rosemary has documented antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Rosmarinic acid, one of its primary active compounds, has been studied for its ability to protect cells from oxidative damage. Traditional uses included rosemary tea for headaches, poor circulation, and digestive complaints. Rosemary is sitting in your kitchen right now. Most people walk past it every day, reaching for something else. But for mental clarity, memory support, and antioxidant protection, that humble cooking herb is doing considerably more than making your chicken taste better. Number 7. Aloe vera. The windowsill plant that outperformed the pharmaceutical burn treatment. Aloe vera sits on windowsills and kitchen counters and households all over the world. That thick, fleshy, spiky succulent that most people keep around for sunburns and occasionally forget to water for 6 months. It is one of the most recognizable plants on Earth. And most people dramatically underestimate what it can actually do. Aloe barbadensis has been used medically for at least 6,000 years. Ancient Egyptian records describe it as the plant of immortality. Greek physicians used it for wounds and digestive complaints. It has appeared in the medical traditions of virtually every culture that has ever encountered it, and with good reason. The clear gel inside the leaves contains over 75 active compounds, including polysaccharides, glyoproteins, anthraquinones, and vitamins for wound healing and burn treatment. The research is particularly striking. Multiple clinical trials have found that aloe vera gel produces faster healing of burns and post-surgical wounds compared to standard medical treatments, including petroleum-based dressings. One systematic review of the literature concluded that aloe vera healed first and secondary burns measurably faster than conventional wound care. The anti-inflammatory properties of aloe gel are also well documented, as is its use for soothing the gastrointestinal tract. Studies have shown benefits for irritable bowel syndrome, reflux, and inflammatory bowel conditions when aloe vera juice is taken internally. Traditional uses for sunburn, cuts, dry skin, digestive complaints, and mouth ulcers are all backed by modern research. Aloe vera is sitting in a pot in millions of homes right now, getting treated as decoration. But break a leaf open and apply the fresh gel to a burn or a minor wound, and you have one of the most clinically validated topical medicines available. It has been healing people for 6,000 years. It has not stopped. Number 6. Peppermint. The cooling herb that tackles pain, digestion, and congestion at once. Peppermint is one of those plants where the gap between how casually people treat it and how seriously the research takes it is almost funny. It is in your toothpaste. It is in your chewing gum. It is in the candy bowl at the restaurant checkout. And it is also the subject of robust clinical research for pain relief, digestive disorders, and respiratory congestion. Mentha piperita contains menthol as its primary active compound. And menthol is genuinely remarkable chemistry. It activates cold-sensitive receptors in the skin and mucous membranes, creating a cooling sensation that has real analgesic effects. But the applications go far beyond surface cooling. For tension headaches, multiple clinical trials have shown that peppermint oil applied to the forehead and temples produces pain relief equivalent to acetaminophen. The same active cooling and analgesic mechanism that makes it feel refreshing as producing measurable headache relief in controlled trials. That result consistently surprises people who did not expect a plant to perform on par with a pharmaceutical painkiller. For irritable bowel syndrome, and terracottated peppermint oil capsules are now widely acknowledged as one of the most effective treatments available. Backed by multiple meta-analyses, the menthol relaxes smooth muscle in the gut, reducing the cramping and spasms that drive IBS symptoms. Several gastroenterology guidelines now include peppermint oil as a recommended first-line treatment for congestion. Menthol is a clinically validated decongestant that opens airways by stimulating cold receptors and reducing the sensation of nasal resistance. Traditional uses for all three of these applications, headache, stomach pain, and chest congestion, go back thousands of years. The chemistry explains every single one of them. Peppermint sitting in your garden or your spice drawer is managing at least 3 distinct medical functions simultaneously. And most pharmaceutical drugs cannot say the same. Number 5. Turmeric. The golden root that modern medicine is spending billions trying to replicate. Turmeric is the bright yellow-orange root that gives curry its color. It has been a cornerstone of Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine for thousands of years, and it is currently one of the most studied plants in modern medical research, with thousands of published papers examining what it does and why. Curculanga contains a compound called curcumin, and curcumin has demonstrated anti-inflammatory effects so significant that pharmaceutical companies have spent enormous resources trying to develop synthetic versions of it. The reason is simple. Chronic inflammation is the underlying driver of most of the major diseases of modern life. Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, cancer, and arthritis. If you can reliably reduce chronic inflammation, you can meaningfully reduce the risk and progression of all of them. Studies have shown curcumin inhibits multiple molecular pathways involved in inflammation. Clinical trials have demonstrated improvements in arthritis symptoms comparable to pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory drugs. Research has shown protective effects on brain health and measurable improvements in markers of cardiovascular disease. Studies on curcumin and cognitive decline are ongoing, and the preliminary results are significant enough that major research institutions are investing heavily. The traditional Ayurvedic practice of golden milk, warm turmeric mixed with milk and black pepper, turns out to be pharmacologically sophisticated. The piperine in black pepper increases the bioavailability of curcumin by up to 2,000%. People figured that combination out thousands of years before anyone understood why it worked. Turmeric has been sitting in spice cabinets and curry recipes for so long that most Westerners never thought of it as medicine. But the research says it is one of the most potent anti-inflammatory tools available from any source, natural or synthetic. Number 4. Elderberry. The winter berry that shortened flu duration by 4 days in clinical trials. Before there were flu shots and antiviral prescriptions, there was elderberry syrup, a jar of it, in the pantry through winter was as standard as keeping firewood stacked by the door. The dark purple berries of the elder tree, or sambucus, were used across Europe as the first response to colds and flu for as far back as records exist. Hippocrates reportedly called the elder tree his entire medicine chest. Then, synthetic pharmaceuticals arrived, and elderberry got quietly retired as old-fashioned. Here is what the clinical research actually shows. Multiple randomized controlled trials have confirmed that elderberry extract significantly reduces both the duration and the severity of influenza. One widely cited study found that flu patients taking elderberry extract recovered an average of 4 days sooner than those on placebo. Another meta-analysis pooling results across multiple studies confirmed meaningful reductions in both duration and symptom severity, 4 days shorter flu. That is not a marginal improvement. That is a substantial clinical outcome. The berries are loaded with anthocyanins and other flavonoids that have antiviral properties. They appear to work by interfering with a virus's ability to replicate and simultaneously activating immune defenses. That dual action, blocking the virus and supporting immune response at the same time, is why the effect is so pronounced. Making elderberry syrup at home is straightforward. Simmer dried elderberries with water, raw honey, ginger, and cinnamon until reduced. Then strain and bottle a tablespoon daily through winter as prevention. Several tablespoons a day at the first sign of illness. It tastes rich and warming and nothing like medicine. Elderberry got pushed aside, not because it stopped working, but because nobody can patent a berry growing in the hedgerow. The evidence says it outperforms most of what replaced it. On number 3, Echinacea, the purple flower that has 300 clinical studies behind it. Echinacea is the purple cone flower that blooms in prairies, roadsides, and gardens across North America. Beautiful enough to grow purely for its appearance, but medically one of the most extensively researched plants in the world, with over 300 published clinical studies examining its effects. The Plains tribes of North America used Acacia as their primary medicine. It was the center of their healing pharmacopoeia for infections, wounds, fevers, and immune stress. When European settlers and herbalists encountered it, it became one of the most widely prescribed medicines in 19th century America. Then, the pharmaceutical era arrived. Acacia got dismissed as unscientific folk medicine and spent most of the 20th century ignored while the medical establishment bet everything on synthetic antibiotics. The research that followed has steadily rebuilt its reputation. Meta-analyses pooling results from multiple randomized controlled trials have confirmed that Echinacea preparations reduce both the likelihood of developing upper respiratory infections and the duration and severity of illness when infections do occur. The plant modulates immune activity, helping the immune system mount a faster and more effective response to pathogens. The active compounds include alkyamides and polysaccharides that interact directly with immune cells. A quality echinacea preparation will produce a characteristic tingling sensation on your tongue from the alkyamides. If you take an echinacea product and feel nothing, the product is likely degraded or poorly made. Take it at the very first sign of illness, the first scratchy throat, the first heaviness that precedes a cold. Taken early and consistently through an illness, it shortens recovery for most people who use it. Tinctures preserve the alkyamides particularly well. Tea from the dried plant also works. 300 studies, thousands of years of indigenous use, and it is still growing in gardens everywhere, still doing exactly what it has always done. Number 2, ginger. The root that outperforms pharmaceutical anti-nausea drugs in clinical trials. Ginger has been used as medicine for over 5,000 years. It appears in ancient Chinese medical texts, in Ayurvedic tradition, in Greek medical writing, in medieval European herbalism. It is one of the most consistently used medicinal plants in human history, across more separate cultures than almost any other plant on this list, and modern pharmacological research has validated it completely. Zingaber isoenol contains gingerols and Schogel's compounds with documented anti-nausea, anti-inflammatory, and analgesic effects. For nausea specifically, the clinical evidence is remarkable. Multiple randomized controlled trials have found that ginger is as effective as pharmaceutical anti-nausea medications for chemotherapy-induced nausea, post-surgical nausea, and pregnancy-related morning sickness. In some studies, ginger performed better than the pharmaceutical option, with fewer side effects for pain and inflammation. Their research has shown that ginger extract produces significant improvements in osteoarthritis pain and muscle soreness following exercise. The anti-inflammatory compounds in ginger work through some of the same pathways as non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, which explains why the effects on pain are measurable and consistent for digestion. Ginger accelerates gastric emptying, meaning it helps food move through the stomach more efficiently. This is the mechanism behind its traditional use for indigestion, bloating, and nausea. Traditional uses across 5,000 years of medical practice all over the world point at the same functions that modern clinical research is now confirming, one study at a time. Fresh ginger tea is as simple as simmering sliced, fresh root in hot water for 10 minutes. It is in every grocery store on earth, when it has been sitting on kitchen counters and in spice cabinets and in tea mugs for millennia. And it has been outperforming pharmaceutical nausea drugs in clinical trials. Number 1, garlic. The most studied medicinal plant on earth that is sitting in your kitchen right now. And here we are at number 1. The plant that has earned the top spot not through obscurity or exotic chemistry, but through sheer, overwhelming, undeniable evidence accumulated over thousands of years and across hundreds of modern scientific studies. Garlic Allium sativa, pungent white bulb, sitting in a bowl on your kitchen counter right now. The one you use for pasta and stir-fry and roasted vegetables without a second thought. The most used culinary ingredient on the planet is also one of the most extensively studied medicinal plants in human history. And what the research shows is staggering. Hippocrates prescribed garlic for a wide range of conditions. Ancient Egyptian medical texts document its use. Greek Olympians ate it before competition. Roman soldiers consumed it for strength and infection resistance. Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine have used it for thousands of years for respiratory infections, digestive problems, and cardiovascular health. Every major ancient medical tradition on earth, with no connection to one another, independently arrived at garlic as a primary medicine. The active compound responsible for most of garlic's medicinal effects is allicin produced when a garlic clove is crushed or chopped, and an enzyme reaction is triggered. Allicin and its breakdown compounds have documented antimicrobial activity against a remarkable range of pathogens, including bacteria, viruses, and fungi. Studies have shown activity against antibiotic-resistant strains, including MRSA. That is the kind of antimicrobial profile that modern medicine takes seriously. For cardiovascular health, the clinical evidence is substantial. Meta-analyses have confirmed that garlic supplementation produces meaningful reductions in blood pressure in people with hypertension. Studies have shown reductions in LDL cholesterol. Research has demonstrated improvements in arterial stiffness and blood vessel function. The cardiovascular benefits are consistent across dozens of trials for immune support and infection prevention. A landmark randomized controlled trial found that people taking a daily garlic supplement had significantly fewer colds over the winter months and recovered faster when they did get sick compared to the placebo group. For cancer prevention, population studies have consistently found that high dietary garlic consumption is associated with reduced rates of certain cancers, particularly gastrointestinal cancers. The research is observational rather than clinical trial evidence, but the signal is consistent enough across multiple large populations that it is taken seriously by cancer researchers. Raw crushed garlic delivers the highest elixir content. Letting it sit for 10 minutes after crushing before cooking preserves more of the active compounds. Aged garlic extract supplements are the most studied form for cardiovascular benefits. Garlic has been healing people for 5,000 years. It is in every kitchen and every grocery store on Earth. It costs almost nothing, and it has a body of research behind it that most pharmaceutical drugs cannot match. That is the point of everything we cover today. The most powerful medicines are not always the most expensive or the most complicated. Sometimes they are sitting on your kitchen counter, waiting for you to remember what they have always been. If this changed how you look at the plants already in your kitchen and garden, hit that like button right now. It helps this video reach more people who are ready to stop overlooking what has been in front of them the whole time. Drop a comment and tell me which one surprised you most. Was it peppermint matching a pharmaceutical painkiller in clinical trials? Was it elderberry cutting flu duration by 4 days? I read every single comment. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it now. We post new videos every week covering practical evidence-backed knowledge that puts real power back in your hands. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss one. The medicine has always been right there. Now you know what you were looking.